So today we're diving into Surah Al-Kawthar. It's the shortest chapter in the entire Quran, but don't let that fool you. In just 3 verses, a grand total of 10 Arabic words, it packs an absolutely profound message on resilience, on gratitude, and on what it really means to be successful. But let's start with a question that honestly probably hits home for all of us. What do you do when you're hit with a devastating personal loss, when people are mocking you publicly and it feels like everything you've worked for is about to be erased? You know, this isn't just some abstract theological idea. It's a deeply, deeply human question, and it is right at the heart of this chapter's story. To really feel the power of this revelation, we have to rewind the clock. We need to go back to 7th century Mecca, to a moment of intense crisis for the Prophet Muhammad. He wasn't just facing opposition to his message. This was a cruel, personal, and very public attack. So here's what was happening. The Prophet and his wife Khadijah had just lost their infant sons. And you have to understand, in that tribal society, a man's legacy, his entire lineage, was carried through his sons. So his enemies, seeing his grief, they weaponized it. They started calling him Abtar. It was this vicious insult, basically saying, you're cut off, you're a dead end. When you die, your story dies with you. No one will even remember your name. It was designed to break his spirit.
And it's right there at that absolute lowest point of human pain and public humiliation that a direct, powerful answer comes down from the heavens. This wasn't just some general verse for all time. This was a personal, specific message of comfort and a powerful defense.
The very first verse doesn't just counter the insult, it completely obliterates it. It starts with the word inna, which means indeed, for sure, without a doubt. It says, we have not just given you something, we have granted you all Kawthar. And this word, it's incredible. It doesn't just mean a lot. It means hyperabundance, an overwhelming, inexhaustible flood of goodness. Okay, so what do you do when you receive a gift that immense? Well, the second verse tells you exactly how to respond. It starts with fa, which means so or therefore. It connects the two ideas. Because you've been given this abundance, turn your focus inward to God in prayer, and then turn it outward in generosity through sacrifice. And then comes the final verse, and wow, it is a masterstroke. It takes that exact same word they used to attack him, Abtar, and with absolute divine authority, it turns it right back on them. It declares that the person filled with all that hate, he is the one who is truly cut off, truly severed from anything good and lasting.
All right, so let's dig into that a little more. What exactly is this Al-Kawthar, this gift of abundance? Well, the sources make it clear it's way more than just one single thing.
You can see here just how rich this concept is. Yes, it's famously known as a literal river in paradise, but the meaning is so much broader. It's the Quran itself, an endless ocean of guidance. It's the gift of prophethood. It's the billions of followers who would love and follow him for centuries to come. Essentially, Al-Kawthar is every conceivable type of good poured out in such an overwhelming measure that it makes the original insult look, well, completely ridiculous.
Now, what's so brilliant about this chapter is it doesn't just announce a blessing. It gives us a powerful, practical formula for how to handle that blessing and turn it into a positive force in the world.
You can almost think of it like a spiritual engine. The input, the fuel, is the divine gift of Al-Kawthar. The internal processing is turning to God in prayer, acknowledging the source, staying humble. But it can't stay there. The output, the action, has to be generosity, sacrificing and sharing that goodness with others. It teaches us that real abundance isn't something you hoard. It's something that's meant to flow through you.
Okay, now let's go back to that final verse, because it completely redefines the rules of the game. It doesn't just play defense, it sets up a whole new divine scoreboard for what success and failure actually are.
And this right here is the heart of it. This is the divine reversal of metrics. See, the enemies were focused on worldly standards, legacy through sons, status, power. God responds by saying, you're not even playing the right game. The true measure of a legacy isn't biological, it's spiritual. It's not about your name being carried by a few descendants, but about a message of faith that lives on in the hearts of billions.
So we've seen what the message is, but the miracle is also in how it was delivered. And this brings us to this incredible concept of the Quran's inimitability.
This entire multi-layered response, a gift, a command, and a prophecy, is delivered with a kind of linguistic and literary perfection that scholars call ijaz. Basically, it means it's impossible to replicate.
Just think about that for a second. 10 words.
The sheer density of meaning, emotion, and theology packed into such a tiny, concise structure is, for many linguists, a central part of what makes it miraculous. And when you look closer, the literary genius is just staggering. It opens and closes with inna, bookending the whole chapter with this feeling of absolute certainty. The verb used, ataina, it's not just we gave. It has a sense of a gift given personally, by hand. It shifts from the majestic we to the intimate your Lord to create closeness. Even the sounds, the rhymes, thar, nahar, tar, create this powerful echo. And of course, the prophecy itself came true. His enemies are footnotes in history books. They were, in fact, forgotten.
Now, to really appreciate this, you kind of have to see what the competition looked like. There was this rival claimant to prophethood, a man named Musaylama, and he tried to imitate the Quran's style. And, well, just listen to this attempt.
I mean, you don't need to be a literary expert to see why this just falls flat, right? It's repetitive, it's clunky, and it tells you absolutely nothing you don't already know. It has zero depth. And when you put it next to the dense, multi-layered, powerful verses of Kawthar, the difference is just night and day. It really highlights how unique the Quran's eloquence is.
So, what's the bottom line here? What's the practical lesson we can pull from this short but incredibly potent chapter for our own lives? Really, this chapter gives us a blueprint for resilience. First, it tells us to stop measuring our own worth by the world's shallow metrics, and instead to recognize the divine abundance, our own Kawthar, that we've already been given. Second, it commands us to turn that recognition into active gratitude through worship and generosity. And finally, it gives us the confidence to trust that in the end, negativity and hate are self-destructive.
And that leaves us with one final, very personal question. This surah isn't just a history lesson, it's an invitation. It's asking each of us to look within, to identify our own sources of abundant good, our faith, our family, our talents, our health. So the real question it leaves us with is,